Start streaming. Okay, today we're going to talk about some signature failures on the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 7 Plus. And I am just getting back from a week spent celebrating holidays with a family, and I spent pretty much that entire time obsessing on my new hobby of trading cryptocurrency. So who are my crypto people, my crypto peeps in the chat? I want to hear about what you guys are buying and selling. And as a new hobbyist, I have been obsessively watching videos and have figured out that, man, videos like mine are super annoying, where they're just long rambling things like this one is about to be. So I want to get to the point for anybody that is clicking on this video that actually wants to know the content here. So let's get to the content. So let's think back to the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus, where we first saw what I call flexion-based defects. So flexion-based defects in the iPhone 6 Plus. We're going to talk about the 7, but our history is the iPhone 6 Plus. So this here is an iPhone 6 Plus board, and what we've learned over time is this sort of collection of information from the community has discovered this set of signature faults. So it started with the classic touch failure on the Mason chip, and over time we all realized that the actual primary defect in classic 6 Plus touch disease is the defect at the M1 pad on that HIFA B-Sync trace. So twisting the board ends up creating some pulling of that particular trace and causing a separation of the trace and the pad, the ball, and the chip that sits on that. So that was sort of our classic flexion-based fault. Since then, we've discovered more of those. So the next signature problem in the iPhone 6 Plus is searching no signal. And searching no signal happens after a drop, or a serious bend in the phone. And what we learned there is that it's the same thing, where you get a stretching or pulling of the traces for the U1 and V1 pad under the baseband CPU. And then there's a third one. The third one is the same kind of thing, where all of a sudden you'll have a phone that fails to restore with error 9. An iPhone 6 or 6 Plus failing to restore with error 9. If you press down on the CPU, it can pass restore, and the problem is actually at the corner of the CPU, under the CPU, the two little balls that sit on traces there that need to talk to the NAND, those get pulled or separated. So together, the error 9 CPU problem, the baseband CPU U1 V1 problem, searching no signal, and classic gray flashing bars touch disease in the 6 Plus, they all share the same underlying common biology, which is that they're all flexion-based defects. So let me stop for a second and make sure this is actually going here, because it's got to make sure that this stream is working. I think it's working. That looks like it's working. All right, so we'll hit quiet there. Okay, there we go. All right, seems good. So flexion-based faults, then, how can we kind of put this together? And what I did is I drew a little diagram here. Let me click back over to that. There we go. So this diagram here, if we actually draw on the board where do these faults occur, they kind of make this little structure. The baseband, let's see. I've never done this before. It's total weatherman. The baseband CPU, look at how that actual spot where the U1 and the V1 pads are under that baseband CPU, it's right on the edge of the SIM tray. And then the error 9, it's on the other side of the SIM tray. And then Mason, it's on the other side of the board. We'd have to flip the board, but it's also kind of right there at the edge of the board. So I want you to think about a piece of cardboard. And if you were going to fold up a piece of cardboard to make a box, if you took a straight piece of cardboard and you were to score it and then put pressure on it, it would fold or bend at the score lines. And I think that that's what's going on with these flexion-based faults in the iPhone 6, 6 Plus. They occur on these sort of fault lines where that's the spot where just the normal flexion on the board, as it lives in a relatively bendy housing, normal daily use causes stress at those spots. If you drop the phone or bend the phone, then that is going to also kind of, be sort of like jumping on a diving board where there's a little bit of a crack in the diving board, and that's going to cause a very specific stress point there at certain spots on the board. So when we think about what we know a lot about the 6 and 6 Plus. They've been out for a long time, and we've kind of put together the story of these 3 different flexion-based faults. Let's apply that now to the iPhone 7. So the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus are kind of new to the repair community, and it's up to us to figure out what are the signature failures on these phones, since they've been under warranty up until September 2017, and now we're a few months out from that end of the warranty period, and they're starting to come on the scene. So we've spent the time from last September up until now. Right now it's January. Happy New Year, January 2018. And during that time, we've started to see some 7s come into the shop that have these sort of strange problems where the underlying biology is unknown. We don't know what the signature faults are. And I wanted to share with you guys today what we kind of as a community have put together and see what you guys think, what are you seeing, and whether or not you have anything to contribute to help us as a community put together this collection of signature faults. So the first signature fault that we saw on the iPhone 7 was this audio IC based lag problem. So this would be an iPhone 7 that presents, it'll boot up, but when you touch the screen, and touch screen works, but then it'll be really, really laggy. You'll touch it, touch is not working, and then suddenly it starts working again. So the screen has a serious lag. Touch works, but it's very laggy. And then if you go over to voice memos, and we've done some videos, you can look for our audio IC videos. If you go over to voice memos is grayed out. So that seems to be a classic presentation of an audio IC fault. So where is the audio IC on the iPhone 7? Let's see. Let's go over here to Microscope cam, and we will turn off this. Nope. All right, let's turn off that. Let's turn off this. And let's turn off that. All right. What window is that? Gotta find it. I've been on break. Chrome window, there it is. Boom. Okay, so let's look at an iPhone 7 board under here and see where exactly is the audio IC. So here is the board, and we have the front side, so our battery connectors here, and then this is our CPU area. So we're gonna flip it. We're gonna look on the back side of the board, and I want you to kind of see this same pattern where you think about, if this were an iPhone 6 or 6 Plus, where would those fault lines be? And if this were an iPhone 6, 6 Plus, they would be kind of on either side of the SIM tray, as well as kind of up here under the LCD connector screw. So if we you could even try to bend the board and see, where are the fault lines? Where is it sort of scored cardboard? And the biggest one in the iPhone 7, 7 Plus seems to be right here, above the flash memory chip, sort of SIM tray area. That SIM tray, the border of the SIM tray, is a score line. That's going to be a fault line. So let's look close under the microscope at that spot. All right, so let's look under here. And what do we see? All right, so here is our NAND flash memory. Let's see if we can turn this camera down a little bit. Get some contrast going up in here. Okay, so here is our flash memory, and on the other side of the flash memory is our SIM tray. So this is our SIM tray, and we can even see how, if we cut this piece of paper here, you can see that this is a big old chunk on the board with kind of nothing going on these borders. So let's flip it back over, and the flash memory NAND is on the other side of that SIM tray. Then let's look here at this area. All right, this is driving me crazy. I got to turn this around so that it matches my view. There, that's a lot better. Okay, so if we look here at this line, this fault line right there between the flash memory and this bracket right here, this is the fault line right there. And what we're seeing is that anybody, any dude that is along this line here, anybody along that line is really susceptible to this kind of bend or drop. All right, so after drop, you end up getting problems along this area. So classic signature fault number 1 that we've already done a video on, that we already know, is right here at the audio IC. So the audio IC itself, then if we take it off in these phones that have that classic appearance of lag plus grayed out voice memos, they're right here at this position, the C12 pad will have a little bit of that same kind of problem where the pad is just not well attached to the trace anymore. So replacing the audio IC plus kind of beefing up that trace will solve those problems most of the time. But what about anybody else along the line? So what we are now seeing is that along this same line over here, the baseband power management chips. The baseband power management chip comes in 2 flavors, the big kind, like this one has, and then there are some versions of the iPhone 7, 7 Plus that have this smaller baseband power management chip. So the ones that have the bigger one, like this one, the bigger one extends over more into the fault line. We'll call the fault line kind of right along that area. And so we're seeing that there are cracks or faults that underlie that baseband power management chip. And now how do those present? Those present with a phone that is not able to boot. So it's a no power phone that appears to be in some kind of a boot loop, or it's just having trouble booting. And if we put it on DC power supply, we'll see it attempt a normal boot sequence, and then it will just kind of go low, and then it will kind of repeat that. It's a boot looping phone. Now, a phone that is boot looping, your first thought is, maybe he's boot looping because he doesn't understand the instructions. He's lost the information of what do I do next? He can't understand the software anymore. So it's natural to take a phone that is boot looping and first kind of follow rule number 1. You don't know you have a board problem until you know you don't have a parts or software problem. So if you take that board and you add known good parts, still boot looping, the next logical thing to do is to kind of rule out software. If the board doesn't have any other clues, it's not water damage, there's no other history or physical exam that would point to anything else, then it's time to try to rule out software. So put the phone in recovery mode and attempt to restore. These phones will fail restore with error 4013. So error 4013 is not as specific as some iTunes errors are. For example, in an iPhone 5S with error 27, that's almost always a battery gas gauge fault. But error 4013 is a little bit more catch-all. So error 4013 pretty much means something's messed up somewhere. So it's not as specific. In other iPhones, iPhone 6 or iPhone 6 Plus or even some of the iPhone 5 series, error 4013 often means you have a NAND fault. It's one of the NAND errors that can be often solved by reformatting the NAND chip itself. But in the iPhone 7, as we all kind of collect information and gather together, I know Chris Long has talked with me a lot. We've been sharing information to try to help the community figure this stuff out, and he has seen the same thing, that this error 4013 in the iPhone 7 is happening at least some of the time because of a fault line defect under the baseband power management chip. I've also seen error 4013 in the iPhone 7 Plus as a Tristar defect. So if you have a history of bad charging cables and you kind of suspect you might have a Tristar problem, Tristar will solve some of the error 4013s in the iPhone 7. I've seen that a few times. But the next place that you would look, in the absence of any other physical damage, if you've had sort of a history of drop and now you've got this boot looping and a failure with error 4013, the next thing that I would look at would be the baseband power management chip. So this phone here, this one is our known good. And this phone here is an error 4013 phone. So let's give it a shot and we'll see if we can learn anything on this. We'll give it a try to just go ahead and change the baseband power management chip and see if that solves. I'm a little surprised that I don't see any chat activity on this stream, which I know I've been away for a while, but let me just check on it a little bit because it's a little bit odd. One person is watching. That is very odd. It is 12:15 a.m. here on January 3rd. We'll assume, since there is one person around, that this stream is working, and just continue on. It'll turn into a video by itself later on down the road. All right, so that means you guys aren't going to talk to me about cryptocurrency, which is what I really want to do. Who are you, one dude who's watching? I want to know. All right, let's go back to Open Broadcaster. Okay, so let's look first at the baseband power management chip and get to know it a little bit. So let's pull up our buddy ZXW and let's see if we can check that out here. So here's ZXW for iPhone 7, and on ZXW we can look at our fault line. So we'll kind of imagine our fault line as we drew, kind of a thick line kind of down here, where we can see here our audio IC faults are along this line. And then we've got this row of caps, and then we've got our baseband power management chip that's also on that fault line. So this is where we're focusing for our error 4013 and see if that might be the case. Now over here on the other side of the SIM tray, we can find our way to Tristar, and you can see, well, Tristar really is kind of in the maybe there's another sort of fault line on the other side of the SIM tray area, same as in the iPhone 6 Plus. So in the iPhone 6 Plus, your baseband CPU is over there, and we get a defect, searching no signal, right on the edge of it. And in the iPhone 6 Plus, the CPU is over here, and you get a defect on that error 9 in that same spot. So Tristar normally fails with electrical damage, but there is some argument that could be made that it could also get a fault line problem. And then down here, I have seen some sudden death of a short in this area as well. So that may all be part of the same category of fault of Flexion-based defects. All right, so here is our baseband power management chip. It's just like the regular power management chip, except that it provides all of the baby power rails that are necessary for the baseband CPU to work to get you some cell service. So if we click around in here, we see that VCC main comes in, which makes a lot of sense. And then we can look around and see power lines. So PP1V225, and there'll be a whole bunch of these, 2V7, and you'll notice that all of these are less than battery voltage. VDD boost. 375 LDO10. So all of these are, for the most part, power rails, some data lines, and they are going to go on to power the rest of being able to connect to a cell tower and send and receive cell signals. Now if we look around here at these caps that are in this line, we can see that some of this power from the baseband power management chip, these caps sit on that line and it goes over here to the baseband CPU. Now the baseband CPU is on the opposite side of the board, but it also seems to be maybe on a fault line. So some of our searching no service, which is also seems to be a signature fault on the iPhone 7. I've had a few walk-in folks that have come in with searching no service. They were under warranty, so I didn't look at the board. But maybe some of these are going to end up being baseband CPU defects, just like in the 6.6 Plus. All right, so we have our VCC main, and I have seen a few phones that have a VCC main, just sudden death of a cap that can be in this area as well. All right, so let's go over to the microscope, and let's get rid of the XW. And let's see what happens to this phone if we just replace that baseband power management chip. Now what I'd like to do before I do that, I'm going to do a physical exam. So let's do our crisp physical exam where we're going to look for anything untoward. Let's look for bend. See if we can actually see any evidence of bend. Nothing is really jumping out at me. There could be a slight bend, but nothing that is like, oh yeah, definitely. All right, and then when I look at these caps, in particular, this one right here, this one has a little bit of a mottled discoloration that kind of jumps out at me as, you know, potentially not normal. And a lot of them do that are, you know, fairly normal otherwise. It's hard to tell if that is a discoloration that's inherent to that cap or not. So because of that, I'd like to do a diode mode reading just to make sure that we don't have a cap failure, and you know that caps fail by becoming wires to ground or partial wires to ground. So let's go ahead and do a diode mode check. Diode mode, we have a video on how to find any fault using diode mode. Great video if you are new to diode mode. But let's take a diode mode reading on that cap. So we're expecting for one side to be ground and the other side to be the line. So we're getting 0.354 on one side, and of course 0 on the other side. Now these guys I think are all on the same line. This is on a different line. 3.4, 3.4. 3.54. Let's compare that to our known good board and see if that is normal. It seems like it should be normal because it's a fairly typical diode mode reading. I think I've got a probe in flux here. It's hard to get a reading. All right, so on this cap, I'm getting 0.362, and on this one, 0.357, 358, 358. All right, so the 3.4 to 3.5, 3.6, that all seems close enough, relatively normal as we measure around in that area. So we're going to say, despite the fact that we saw a little bit of a physical anomaly on that one cap, let's rule that out for being the cause of a problem based on our diode mode measurement. All right, so let's take this chip off. Now the iPhone 7 board does take a little bit more heat than some of the other boards. And before we start, we want to be really sure to remember the chip orientation so that we don't have to look that up later. Let's brighten this up again. Let me click over so that I can see the camera. All right, wake it up. Oh, this is the first stream in a really long time that hasn't been super active. All right, so there we can see the markings on the chip, and we can see the dot that is in the top corner. And in case we end up flipping the board around, let's just kind of remember the dot is facing this row of 4 little caps that's next to a crystal. All right, so we're going to get in there, and we're also going to read the number on the chip because there are 2 different versions of the baseband power management chip in the iPhone 7. So we want to make sure that the chip that we replace this with is the same. So this is the PMD 9645 Qualcomm chip. All right, so let's get a heatsink on our NAND. And let's get this off. I bet that something is up with that. So Lewis is getting into crypto. I've infected him, and he is coming to the dark side. It has been really, really fun. I would like to make the New Year's resolution to see whether or not it's possible to become one of those like emotionless traders. Traders that trade with a plan based on math and probability and not, you know, hey bro, did you hear the news about this? I don't know if that is possible, and I definitely don't know whether or not technical analysis of candlesticks and charts really is a skill or an art, or is it like astrology? I am not really sure. So we're gonna find out. That's gonna be my new hobby. Super excited. It's been super fun so far. I really think that cryptocurrency is a unique period of time. I think that we could look back on this time in history in 5 years or so, and one of 2 things is going to happen. Either one, we're going to look back on this time period and say, hey, remember when we had Bitcoin? Whatever happened to that? Or we're going to look back on this time and tell our children, you know, you were alive, you were a little kid back before we had digital currency. What do you think about that? Will the idea of living in a world with paper money and no digital currency be as foreign as looking back and thinking about living in a world with no eBay and PayPal? I think there's a good chance. I think it's a good chance that one of these altcoins is going to grow and ultimately outcompete the prototype, Bitcoin. And we don't know which one it's going to be. It's a giant melee. It's Wild West over there. It's a brawl. And one of them's going to win. Alright, so we got our chip off. So let's clean up that area. Wow, I don't think I've picked up a soldering iron all day. I've been doing all kinds of paperworky kind of stuff. I got my home office all set up, so I've been working from home. Yikes. And I had briefly had this idea of my home office is on a 3-season porch, and it is cold AF. It is so cold this week in Rochester. It is maybe 1 degree Fahrenheit, not Celsius. 1 degree Fahrenheit. It is cold. In fact, I can't wait for Mark to get here to do the course. Doing the course next week. Mark hasn't been here for a few weeks, and Mark lives in Florida, and he is going to die. It is so bitterly cold. You can't stand to be outside for more than a few minutes before you can't feel your hands at all, and it's miserably cold. So on my 3-season porch, I had this idea. You know, I can't work out there in the winter. That's insane. We can't pay to heat a 3-season porch against this bone-chilling nightmare cold. What if I built a really awesome, hot and loud mining rig, so I could mine cryptocurrency and work out there? I could heat it with a mining rig. What do you think? Thought that was a great idea. It lasted for about like 10 minutes. Before I was like, yeah, that's crazy expensive, and you probably can't heat Rochester 1 degree Fahrenheit to any temperature that you could stand to sit out there and do work with a mining rig. It probably just isn't going to work. So I abandoned that idea. But for Christmas, what I got was my husband Jeff put a gas wood stove out there. And that thing is rocking. That thing heats that place up so hot. It can turn it into a sauna. So it's pretty amazing. So I've been loving it out there. I'd like to get a YouTube set up so that I can stream from the home office, because it is darn cold here in the shop. I don't even think I have any alcohol. All right, so we've cleaned off these pads. What I'd like to do, but I don't think we're going to be able to. I'd like to take diode mode measurements just to see if there's any problems under there. I'm gonna have to go steal some alcohol from Jean. Jean's not here. Jean can't complain. Thanks, Jean. You're the best. I promise that I will put this right back and not just forget and leave it here indefinitely. I promise. All right. All right, so we've got some nice looking pads. All right, that looks good. We will go ahead and put our new chip on, because I think it would be too laborious to diode mode every pad under here, although I'd like to do that. I did do that for the audio IC. So the audio IC, just FYI, as while we're here, I did take diode mode readings. Why? Maybe they're just already automatically in ZXW. So let's check. Maybe they're already in ZXW. ZXW does a great job with adding new content all the time. So here's our baseband PMIC, and we can check connecting seat resistance over here. So let's click that, boom. And connecting seat resistance shows us nothing. So there's no connecting seat resistance on the iPhone 7 schematic or board view on ZXW. Presumably elsewhere on the board there will be. Here we go, over here at the dock connector. We can see these little diode mode readings. That'd be great if we were troubleshooting some kind of dock connector problem, but we are not. We're troubleshooting the baseband PMIC. So we're gonna have to be on our own for diode mode readings. Same for the audio IC. So on the audio IC problem, the last one I did, it was troublesome, so I did take those readings, and I'll show you where I put them so that you can go find those same readings. All right, so let's see. I put them at iPad Rehab Forum. So come on over to the iPad Rehab Forum. You can get there from iPadRehab.com, click Forum, or just type in forum.mendonipadrehab.com. And you'll find your way to the forum. And then here on the forum, I've got a section here for all of us. If you have to do some terrible job like diode mode the entire audio IC, then at the very least you can get some cred and come over here to It Takes a Village, community knowledge-based contributions. Anyone is welcome to contribute anything that they see or find that they think might be a signature fault, something novel. So I put that one here. Audio IC diode mode measurements with my multimeter, which is a Fluke 115. And that might help you know whether or not your diode mode reading is actually off or not. I'm noticing that in ZXW they use a little bit of a different multimeter and they end up getting values that are a little bit different than what I get. So this is audio IC diode mode measurements, and I stuck that here as a PDF, and it looks like there's a bunch of copies. Oh, I don't think you can, yeah, you can still see that. All right, so here's your audio, iPhone 7 audio IC on a known good. So I took it off a known good, and from the top left corner, A1, ground, open line, it goes all the way across. This is what you get if you probe the pads under the audio IC with no audio IC on there. Now this was the one over here, C12, that is our signature fault. You want the normal diode mode reading to be 0.483 in diode mode. If it's higher than 0.483, then you've got an open line or a little bit of an open line, and you need to iron out that trace or make a micro jumper to bring that back to normal before you move on. All right, so there you go. That is, that's all we have to say about that. Let's go ahead and get our new baseband PMIC on here. Oh, YouTube, you are such a time sink and a frenemy for sure. I spent lots of time getting my camera set back up, the old camera that I liked. I got a different microphone, made the green screen, and did all that because the last couple streams have had various technical difficulties, and there is absolutely nobody in chat, which tells me something is wrong. Something is wrong, but I don't know what. All right, so let's check. Is this the same chip? So writing on the chip says Qualcomm PMD 9645. That's our same dude. And lucky for us, we remember where our dot goes. The dot points to the 4 dudes, 1, 2, 3, 4, next to that crystal. So we're gonna get this on here. So let's stick him down like a pig in mud. And put our heatsink back on. Let's knock the contrast up a little bit. And heat this sucker up. I have to say, I've been soldering at home with the Quick, which is very powerful, and that's great, but going back to the JBC here at work kind of feels like coming home. I love my old, reliable, trusty JBC. The Quick is great, but it's a little bulky. The JBC is just sophisticated. Love this thing. I think you kind of grow to love whatever station you use a lot. It's all about just really knowing your station. Alright, so we've got him moving. I wanted to see a little bit of a nudge so that when I poke him, just to make sure that I don't have any solder balls that are just heads on pillows on the pads. I want them to meld into one joint. So we had to see that nudge. I touched it a few times and I didn't see that fluidity that I wanted to see, so I had to give it that little bit of extra heat that this board seems to need. Okay, so we're going to let this cool down and see if that makes a difference at all. And while we're cooling that down, I am going to see what's up with this. Live streaming checklist. Stream health, green. It says live, green. Looks great. Seems fine. Analytics, 1 person watching now. I wonder who it is. Who are you, 1 person watching now? What does it feel like to be the only person watching this video? Tell me your name. Probably it is a computer. All right, let's click back. All right, so I'd like for this to kind of cool down a little bit. Let's see, maybe, why not similar, I'm just surrounded by these iPhone 7s that all kind of have the same kind of issue. All right, let's pick another one. All right, this one seems to be laggy. So this is a 7 Plus. While we're waiting for that other one to cool down, why not take a peek at the 7 Plus fault line and see if we see anything? Maybe take a measurement at that audio IC. All right, let's see what's up with this. Now this one, what is that? Maybe nothing. A little bit of something that I'm not sure if it's adhesive or flux. It doesn't really look like a prior repair attempt. So this one, because it boots and it has that laggy touch, I'm gonna kind of go after the signature fault here of audio IC. We're looking for any kind of other signs of crack or bend. Anything? Anything? All right, let's look on the side here. All right, nothing jumps out at us. All right, so I'd like to be able to measure that C12 pad, but I think it's just too tough to try to shove some probes in there. So let's just take audio IC off. So once again, we're going to remember our dot is pointing to the edge of the board by these 2 big caps. So let's get some flux on there and let's take audio IC off. I will put a heat sink. I was talking with Christy earlier about all this cryptocurrency biz, and I asked her, and I asked the same thing to the kids the other day, how would your life be different, or would it in any way, if some people came around and said, hey, we've decided that we don't need paper currency or coins anymore, so we want you to go around your house, dig up every dollar in this place, every piece of paper money, all your cash, all your pennies, all your quarter jars, turn them in, and we're going to issue you a card that has digital currency for the same value. Now, if you lose the card, don't worry about it. You can just come down to the office and we'll give you another card. Would it make any difference to you at all? Would you even notice? Christy pointed out that you'd have to pay strippers by swiping your card. Probably some kind of tit swipe machine would have to be invented. I'd like to have a little bit more flux on this. And then she pointed out that we would eventually have a shortage of iPhone heat sinks for iPhone micro-soldering. And she also said that she would not be a fan of that because she likes the feeling she gets when she finds like a quarter or a penny, and she just finds it. She said it especially if it's heads up, makes her feel lucky for the day. And so I think that conventional currency has degraded to the point where its only value is in being litter. Alright, so that's off. Let's clean up those pads and go ahead and measure our C12 and see if it seems normal or not. Alright, let's look at it really close. So C12 is the third one down here on the end. Looks totally fine. I'd like to take a diode mode reading before kind of tinning over these pads. I don't want to inadvertently correct a problem simply by the act of kind of like tinning over these traces. But the board is hot right now and our diode mode reading would be off. Diode mode readings are affected by heat because the resistance of the board will change as the board goes from hot to cool. So you really want to be taking all of these readings on a room temperature board. Gotta let this baby cool down. I gotta really give some props to folks that have small channels that have, you know, bye-bye NC pads, that only have like 3 or 4 folks that are watching, because it really is a whole different experience doing a YouTube video with nobody watching. It's so funny how like all day long I was like, oh, I really need to stream something. I haven't done a stream, you know, since before Christmas. And then now it's like, who cares? Doesn't really matter now. Yeah, nobody really cares if you stream or not. That's pretty funny. All right, let's clean this up. All right, so let's just make sure that our 3 missing pads here are in fact NC. So whenever a pad comes off, you have to ask yourself, well, was it really attached to anything to begin with or not? Now these 3 spaces look totally blank. I don't see any trace coming from the side, and I don't see any trace coming from down below. And that's usually the case if you're just kind of tinning around and a pad comes off with the iron. It's likely to be a NC or not connected pad because it wasn't connected to anything to hold it down to the board. But let's check on ZXW just to make sure that that's true. So ZXW, NC, NC, NC. So now we know for sure that those are NC pads. So this is the pad that we're interested in, C12, that goes to a line I2S AP to codec, M clock, whatever that means. So let's check and let's go back to our diode mode map. So we'll go over to iPad Rehab Forum again, and we will open up our audio IC diode mode spot. All right, and at the C12 position, our diode mode reading should be 0.483 according to my calculations. So let's ditch those. Stop it, stop it, stop it. And see what the diode mode reading is on this one. Okay, when the diode mode reading is high, that means you have to run a little micro jumper there to help yourself out. If it's normal, then maybe not. All right, survey says 0.435. Now that's interesting. When I touch that pad, I can see some movement. Look at that. Wow, you can really see that. That is loose. Look, I'm probing it. I'm going to probe this just with a pair of tweezers. Let's just pick some other kind of pads. If I press a pad over here away from the fault line, you know, I can press it all I want and I can't get any movement. Let's check here on another border, another edge. Those guys are you know, firmly attached. Now let's check along here. Let's check all of them. Look at that. That is clearly loose. I'm now down here by my 3 NCs. I'm going to go up the fault line and just sort of touch these. Do you see that? As I press that, you can see the squish of the alcohol and leftover flux there. That one seems firmly attached, but this one has a bit of looseness. Look at that. It's quite loose. I can move it. Look at that. I can move it. It is very poorly attached. Even though it is technically making connection. Wow, you can really, really see this fault. You know, like compared to this one, that is totally on there. It's immobile. I can push it. There's no amount of reasonable force that I can apply to make that thing move at all. How about this one with a skinny little trace? Same thing. Look at this one here. This one has a skinny, thin little trace. It should barely be held on there at all. No movement. But here at C12, that is very, very injured. It's a little easier for me to see under the microscope. This is really fascinating, I think, but you can see that round pad with the trace coming into it, even though the diode mode reading is correct, I can see that it looks like a piece of tin foil that someone took a knife and went like that. It's still making electrical contact, but it's weak. I want you guys to see that. I'm going to see if we can mess around a little bit so that you can really appreciate the exact defect here. This is as zoomed in as we can get. It wouldn't take very much at all for me to just pull that pad off entirely. Let's see if we can look at it on an angle. Well, that's pretty cool. I'll have to say, all you people not watching this stream, this is pretty cool. I hope that this actually turns into a video because I suspect that something is up. All right, let's see. Is there any detail that we can get here? Let's brighten it up. I don't think that really helps. I think the best view is is right here. Let's focus that. And drink some emergency Diet Coke. It is so cold in Rochester that I'm having to drink Diet Coke warm on purpose. All right, let's show this to you guys again. That is a very poor connection right there. Watch what happens when I touch this. It is lifted. Look at that. Now it's off. There we go. Well, that was super classic. Just beat right there on that junction between the trace and the pad. So that really helps us to kind of define that fault line, that just pressure pulling and twisting right there. And it goes all the way down. Anybody in this line is sort of susceptible. Okay, so now we need to make a micro jumper. We needed to do that anyway the moment that we found that weakness. So we're going to apply a little micro jumper to kind of sit and live in that spot. So let's see. What am I going to use for for jumper wire? That is the little bit of the drag with taking stuff to work on at home that I think my very, very thin 44 gauge wire that I like to use is sitting there by the beautiful wood stove in my home office. And I need to find some of the old stuff, vibrator motor wire, which I think I might have to go steal from Mark's station. I think my vibrator motor wire has been stolen by thieves. All right, I'm gonna go grab Mark's vibrator motor wire. Be right back. Ooh, he has the iPhone 5 one that I can't stand. All right, we'll use it anyway, under duress. All right, so here's a little bit of vibrator motor wire. And I'll be sure to return that to Mark's station right away as soon as we finish up this. See, does this wake up? So we're going to put a little flux. And once again, just like with the M1, in an ideal world here, I'd like to be able to prevent this from happening in the future. So I'd like to give this jumper a little bit of play, a little bit of extra length, so that if the board were to twist or bend in the same way again, that it wouldn't really stress and tear that micro jumper in the same way it did the original trace. So I'm going to see if I can bend it a little bit off of the native path. There we go. Kind of making a little bit of an L shape. So instead of going straight diagonal, I'm giving it a little bit more play here. All right, so let's see if I can keep that held down to tin it. And let's see if we can make it be just the right size and not longer. All right, beautiful. All right, so that's our micro jumper. Okay, so now your option with this is to use some UV curable solder mask to help this not move when you solder your new audio IC on top, or you can say, I don't need to do that, and just carry on. Now, I'm slightly worried about these other ones as well, but I think for this case, I'm going to just leave them alone and see whether or not I have to come back and address those. All right, let's see. Can I get a good joint on that wire? All right, I'd like it to be at least soldered a little bit better to the edge there of that trace. The edge of his native trace. I'm going to tin that a little bit. There we go. Now we'll stick him back in that spot. And solder him again sort of to the very edge. Alright, that should be robust. Alright, I'm happy with that. We've got a little bit of extra play, and he's soldered down all along there. Alright. Let's see if, let's just take a gamble and not use the UV solder mask. Now, I did get some new UV lights that cure UV solder mask in just a few seconds on iPad Rehab Supply, but I'm not going to sell those until I also get the UV safety goggles. So I haven't been willing to sell those. I consider them super dangerous. Remember all the eclipse stuff and don't look at the sun. Well, you know, UV is really bad for your eyes. So I can't in good conscience sell like kind of high-powered UV lights that you know, if you could sit here and do surgery having UV light going right into your eyeballs, unless and until I came up with a compromise idea, which is to sell them with a pair of UV safety glasses. So if you put on the UV safety glasses, have at it. So once I get both the UV light and the safety glasses in stock, those will be available on iPad Rehab Supply. All right, lucky for us, we remember where our dot goes. All right, let's see if we can solder this back on here without that jumper really getting pulled around. And it might. If it does, then I'll just have to reball this chip later. But kind of want to get back to the other phone and get out of here before this video gets too long. So let's heat this sucker up. That's really, really wild how such a tiny little thing can take out a phone. It was just a a score mark almost in the top of that trace. That little tiny thing. And those are the kind of findings that they're really hard to discover. But, you know, the good news is that these phones are largely well designed. They don't just kind of have random failures all over the place. They have specific signature failures. They have very specific weaknesses and weak points. And once you start to see and find, you know, a weak point, then again and again you'll see the same common colds, the same signature faults. Alright, these boards do take a lot more heat than you would expect. Alright, so I saw him move. I'm not going to nudge him because I don't want that jumper to come off. Alright, we'll give that a try. Okay, so that will either work or not. If not, then I would repeat it, this time using the UV solder mask. Alright, let's let that cool down. And let's go back to our Error 4013 phone and see if it's still an Error 4013 phone or not. Alrighty. Today was a very, very sad day for the family. It is the last day in the life of Blue Cat. Blue Cat is Grandma's cat, and Blue Cat was a really amazing cat, something like 14 years old. And Blue Cat stopped eating and drinking and had to get the final visit from Dory the vet. Love Dory's business, doorbell vet. Dory comes around, and you know, I think it's really, really fantastic to kind of have the end of life terrible time at home with your pet, rather than having the last thing you do be to, you know, put the cat in the car and have to drive to the vets. So it was the end of the day for old Blue Cat, 14 years old, sweetest kitty ever. But that creates the next problem, which is when it is 1 degree in Rochester and you suddenly have to have a cat grave, what do you do? Because the ground is so chock hard frozen and is gonna be for a long time. What do? You'd have to like get a jackhammer to you know, make a hole for old Blue Cat. So the Burdette tradition is to stick old Blue Cat in a snowbank for some time. So we're gonna let's sing Boots to Recovery, and now we're gonna attempt to restore. So I think old Blue Cat is going to be hanging out in a snowbank, which, you know, the first time I ever heard that story was with their dog Pansy, putting Pansy in a snowbank until spring, which I thought was a little weird. But now, you know, makes sense. All right, restore. All right, we're going to restore and update. Go ahead, restore and update. All right, let's see if we can add a window for you guys to watch that happen. Window capture. Sure, window, create new. Create new from iTunes. All right, here we go. Now you too can watch this restore happening. Looks like error 4013. Waiting for iPhone. Oh, maybe not. Nope. Error 4013. It has rebooted back to recovery mode. Ah, no, stop that. All right. Boo. All right, so our error 4013, which on this phone, we went with, hey, let's just, let me show this to you guys. Let this happen again because it's pretty quick. We just went with, hey, signature problem, error 4013, iPhone 7. Let's try baseband PMIC because we had no other evidence to go on anything. All right, so this one, error 4013, does not appear to be solved by baseband PMIC. So on the next thing I would do would be to change Tristar on this one and see if that makes a difference. All right, so it doesn't seem, fails very quickly. So this kind of seems like a kind of a transition problem where it either can't talk to the NAND or it can't maintain a USB connection. It can't just kind of come back. All right, so the other kind of classic thing to do is to change Tristar, so let's rule that out. Now, if you know, one thing that you might want to do if you've got an error 4013 iPhone 7 before going to the trouble of changing your baseband PMIC is to press on it, because what we just saw, the actual fault in the iPhone 7 at the audio IC, we could see that trace was present, and it even had a normal diode mode reading, but it had this sort of score mark in it from this bendy twisty stuff. So in theory, pressing down on it and trying, pressing down on the PMIC, the baseband PMIC, and then trying to restore, if that is the cause of the failure to restore, then pressing down on it may allow it to restore, in which case that tells you, yes, there's a problem there, and then you can go back and replace that chip. Or figure out, maybe even now in this case, maybe the problem isn't, hey, take off the chip, put on the chip. The problem may be, like we saw for the audio IC C13 or C12 pad, that one of the pads there. Now, in retrospect, I wish that while we had that chip off, if we had looked, do we see any kind of squishiness in that area? Is anything loose? Or does it all look totally intact, in which case we're probably barking up the wrong tree? Well, on this one, though, let's go ahead and change Tristar. Alright, let's get rid of our iTunes. Alright, so we've got our iPhone 7 Tristar is right over here. And let's see on this one if we can just kind of snake that out. And while we're in here, let's look around and see, does anything else jump out at us as a visible problem? No. So we'll try to snake our Tristar out from there. We also, since would probably at this point be worth it to explore our NAND area caps and just check to see whether or not we can discover any, hey, can you not talk to NAND? Any problems like that? All right, let's get that focused a little bit better for you guys and Let's see if we can get some contrast. That should be making it have more contrast. There we go. All right, heat sink. And let's try to grab that chip out of there. I'm going to try to blow the air not directly on the NAND. I just did a giant what not to do that I always tell the students. Never approach a hot chip with tweezers to try to grab it while it's hot, because you're gonna stir the ships on the sea over there. But I did it anyway. These are not very hot. There we go. So all we care about is really just sucking off some or most of the balls that are left behind. Doesn't need to be perfectly flat. Why does this keep going back off? It's funny, you can tell the instant, hey, this isn't hot anymore. Just instant change in the way things behave. It's Lewis. I wonder what crypto coin he is going to buy first. He discovered today that it's not as easy as just saying, all right, I'll buy some Ripple, in the same way that you could go down to Subway and buy a Subway sub. Oh. Nope. Okay. So let's grab a new Tristar and get this sucker on here. I'm gonna ask him what's up with this stream. I'm streaming. There is one viewer and 0 chat. What the fuck? What do I do with those phone calls? Oh, jeez. All right. It would be pretty fun to call up Lewis's store number. You guys should try it. It's pretty funny. Maybe we should call up Lewis's store and ask for advice on what to do when something is seriously up with your stream. Where either you have YouTube BO and nobody really wants to be around anymore, or something is up. I'll be bummed out if this entire stream doesn't turn into a video, because I think that seeing that trace is pretty cool. on the iPhone. You set it to private, end it now. Oh, okay. Now I know. I'm not going to end it. No. I'll make it public later. No, don't do it! No! Don't. Stop. Stop. I'll just make it public later. I'll make it public later. No! I like this stream. I want to finish it. I'm at the end. It will just be a video. All right. Well, now I know. Don't set your stream to private, which I didn't do. That was, what was it? Something made it set to private, I forget. All right, let's see. All right, let's get this chip on here. Well, that's good. It means I don't have internet BO. And it also means that the one watcher was that computer over there, which is pretty funny. All right, that's a little bit uneven, but it will sort itself out. Okay. Oh, I gotta get rid of those janky tweezers. That will probably have set it. Now let's let it find its own way. I hope you didn't mess up my stream. Alrighty. Alright, so now we'll let that one cool down. Now let's go back and see if the audio IC board that we changed, let's check on this one. Let's see if it still has audio IC problems. Or not. Alrighty. Let's find out. Will it boot? Gotta check on my crypto trades. So exciting. So fun. It's always fun to be just doing random shit in a market that's pretty much just goes up indefinitely. All right, let's see if this phone will boot. All right, when it came in, or last time I checked, I think this one did boot to the activation screen, but then it would not have touch. So you could hit, you know, English and then it would say no SIM, but you couldn't hit OK. It wouldn't get past that. So that's where this one left off at testing. But no one is watching. That's pretty funny. All right, so we'll see. Can it boot? Now, last time I did one of these, we learned that they really don't like it if they're on the wrong time and date. We're noticing, you know, in the iPhone 5S, I got trolled with the power lock unlock button just didn't work. It'll work for long press, but it will not work to lock unlock if you have a phone on iOS 11 Plus that is on the wrong time and date, which they get on the wrong time and date if you leave the battery disconnected and do microsurgery on it. So we'll have to you know, check on that. Now this one is gonna boot to the activation screen, so we might not be able to really do much testing. Let's go ahead and put the other one back together as that cools down and see if we can get a result. After Tristar. Now if Tristar doesn't solve this, you know, then we kind of have to go back and start thinking, you know, why, you know, what do you, remember we said error 4013 is really something's wrong. Reminds me of that Zumbinis game. There's something about this that I don't like. It's just kind of like a baby crying and you've got to change its diaper, make sure it's fed, and do everything you can think of. But a lot of it's just kind of like, if it can't tell you where it hurts, then it's really open-ended. Thanks. This audio IC one is taking a darn long time to boot. All right, let's get the screen on the error 4013 one. It will be fun when the season of figuring out all these signature problems is over, when we all kind of know what they are. All right, so let's see if this can pass restore now. Let's get back our iTunes window and say restore. Restore and update, please do. Oh geez, it's 1:30 in the morning. All right, so this one has been failing right after it doesn't make a single blip of status bar. So it fails pretty much now. It can't produce that status bar. Nope. It makes the status bar, but it can't make a single blip on it. So this one's pretty much in the same state. So it is error 4013. One thing that I will do on this is I will see whether or not it has a different behavior if I put it in DFU versus recovery mode. So right now it's in recovery mode. So I will put it in DFU mode by holding, let's make sure that button is connected. All right, so let's go to DFU. Disconnect, 1, 2, 3, let go of the power button. Oh, I think I should have, I messed that up. I let go of the down button as well, which is the home. All right, let's click it off, disconnect, 1, 2, 3, and let go of just the power button, but I'll hold that volume down button still down. All right, so now it's in DFU. DFU has nothing on the screen. So I can disconnect and reconnect, and it's in DFU mode. You can hear all of that going on over there. So let's see if a DFU restore is the same or not versus a recovery mode restore. Sometimes DFU restore is a deeper restore where it will erase not just the operating system, but the operating system and the firmware. So corruption of firmware can be solved sometimes with a DFU restore. All right, so let's see what is up with it now. What's it gonna do? Nope, same state. Let's see if it brings itself back to life in recovery mode. Yep, so same exact state. So this is still an error 4013. You're not seeing that pop-up error message, but I can see it here. iPhone could not be restored. Unknown error. There's something about this phone that I don't like. Unknown error 4013 has occurred. All right, so that's not satisfying in the least, but I think that in retrospect, I kind of wish that we had pressed on that power management chip kind of before going down that road. So with this one, why are you an error 4013 phone? What would we do next? The next thing that I would consider would be, are you error 4013 because you just can't talk to the NAND? Are you kind of a classic NAND fault like we see in the 6.6 Plus? So really you don't have anything wrong with you other than your NAND is not able to talk to the CPU. That seems what those like very early restore failures are. Like, I can't do anything. I can't even talk to the NAND. I knocked on the door, he didn't even answer me. So in that case, we could diode mode around the NAND area. We could even take the NAND off, diode mode under the NAND, and then we could put the NAND chip in a NAND reprogrammer and ask it to format itself so that maybe the NAND is no longer it can't be read or talked to because it's lost its formatting. So kind of reformatting the NAND with a NAND reprogrammer. Those would be the next steps for this error 4013 phone. In retrospect, I think that I would have liked to have pressed on the baseband power management chip to see whether or not that could induce it passing. In fact, I'll probably still do that. That's really not much of a possibility now. But I'm going to press. Applying pressure here on that fault line and go ahead and give it one more chance here to restore. Alright, so we'll see if that makes a different story or not. Alright, so I'm pressing on this. Nope, same exact thing. I'm going to try pressing on the NAND itself. So let's try that. Let's clear out of our error here. Alright, connect to iTunes. I'm going to press on the NAND itself here down on the bench. Restore and update, so I'm clicking through that. I did buy these cool little like clips. They're over there that are just for this, to apply pressure to specific areas of the phone. So we're trying to like overcome like a very similar kind of defect, some kind of little crack or cold joint. All right, same, exactly the same. It just flashes the Apple logo status bar, but it can't make a single dot. And if we look over at iTunes, it says error 4013. All right, so this one I'm going to give up on for today, and it's probably not worth it to put more time into it for me, but if I was, it would be really investigating the NAND, and then if not the NAND, it would be again kind of going back to those fault lines. Take off the baseband power management chip diode mode under it, take off the audio IC, take off anybody around there, and try to figure out what is the fault. It is like finding a tiny little needle in the haystack. We saw how difficult it was, but so obvious on the audio IC foam, which I think I need to reboot over here. Let me get this one situated here. All right, so this one seems a little bit too hot to me. So this one we're gonna have to peek at and see what is up with you. All right, so let's click that away. All right, so it seems a little warm, which is not cool. Warm is not cool. Get it? Alright, so I'm going to do a little diode moding around here. .627s, 0.261, 759, 365 on VCC main. 0.09, 272, 175, 366, 367. those all seem pretty good. I wonder if what is along here, that's just going to be the edge of the CPU. That's just flux on him. Jumper looks okay. Now Mark had one that developed a VCC main short after some audio IC work. I think this was a pretty solid audio IC job. I don't see it having any problem. Yeah, I'm pretty confident in that. Alright, I'm going to check DC power supply and see what is up with it. See if we can find if it acts like it has a short. Alright, so it's holding 0 current with VCC main voltage, so battery is applied and it stays at 0 as normal. Let's prompt it to boot. Prompting it, prompt. Alright, let me see it kind of initiating a relatively normal boot sequence. I'm going to feel for heat. That seems pretty normal on DC power supply. Seems pretty normal. Honestly, on DC power supply, it looks like it's having the exact same kind of symptoms as the other phone, which is a boot looping sequence, and then it kind of drops back down and keeps doing it again and again. I don't think it has a short. It just doesn't like something along that fault line. It makes me wonder, really now I wish we had gone back and checked on those other squishy pads on the other audio IC data lines, or at least that was really dumb not to just take a diode mode measurement at least on them. C'est la vie. Right, I'm going to just kind of rule out parts on this one by switching out a different screen on this. Oh, I'm really getting tired. But that DC power supply reading seemed really similar of the way these kind of fault line phones act. All right, let's see what happens with this. Oh, tired. Oh, look at that. It's chat. Oh, I'm really fucking tired. Is it pulling about 2 amps on boot and then settling to 200 milliamp? It seems actually pretty normal. It doesn't get up to 2 amps. Thanks, YouTube, for useless notifications in your own darn browser. Why did you change this, Lewis? God damn it. I'm really tired. Really tired. So I started this stream really long ago. we saw something really cool, which was the audio, C12 pad on the audio IC. You could see the sponginess in it. It was really kind of a neat finding. So we changed audio IC, ran a micro jumper on this one, and also we're investigating an error 4013 iPhone 7, which is that me or is that somebody else on here? Why do you keep doing that? On an iPhone 7, change Tristar, blah, 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 blah. I do not drink Coca-Cola. It's bad for health. What the fuck? I need to go get back to my crypto trades. It's been too long. It's been like an hour. All right. So just wondering if I should invest more of my fake money in fake money. I think here's my goal with the cryptocurrency, Chris Long. I'm going to be a trader. Be a real bona fide trader. See how this just kind of hangs at the Apple logo? So this is not likely to be solved here right now. And it seems a little hot here. Where's the hot spot? Let's find it. I'm gonna kiss it. Oh geez. It is hot up here. That's gonna suck if it actually has the SD RAM problem. Feels really hot up here. So it feels hot up here. We were working down here on the other side of the board. So heat up here. Now we've been really wondering about the relationship between these SD RAM shorts that these phones get. This one doesn't have the classic signs of that. So it's more likely going to have some kind of front camera line problem or something like that. But let's look around up there. I wonder if there is a relationship between these sort of fault line faults that we've been talking about today and that SD RAM fault. Can one kind of trigger the other? Can fault line faults end up triggering a SD RAM short? Alright, well there's a bit of schmutz in the connector here. I am really, really fucking tired. I got in here today at about 8 a.m. It is 1:47 a.m. and did not intend to do a great big long stream. In fact, what I'd like to do is to take some more of this stuff home and see if I can really get my home office where it's warm and not butt-ass cold to work. Super tired. Alright, that guy looks like he's seen better days. Let's measure him. Oh man, I'll be buying my quick with crypto. Yeah, baby, my crypto peeps. 2018. It's gonna be by the end of 2018. It will be hard for us to remember a world before digital currency. 428 on this cap. Oh, actually, is it a filter? 430. 430. Is that supposed to be a filter? Okay. Wonder what line that button on. Jess, I've noticed the iPhone 7 does have issues with cracks right at the top of the CPU shield. SD RAM failures always follows. You know, I saw a really interesting one today. A guy came in from another shop, and he's got a customer who is like threatening to sue him and take down his business, blah, 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 because of his iPhone 6 Plus that he went to the Apple Store, and the Apple Store said it did not have touch disease, when it clearly has touch disease. That looks a little more bendy than I thought. So he brings me the phone because he did a, kind of little backlight oops on it. And he brings me the phone, and the CPU shield had clearly been taken off. And I'm sure this guy has no idea. So it is a prior repair attempt at some point. Touch phone. All right, let's look. Let's look around at this one. Trying to see how much of this flux is from our recent audio IC job. Probably all of it. Well, I've seen a short up here in the top of the phone before from what really seems like super minor technician damage on a cap. In fact, it's interesting that the phone that I found that shorted line on up here was also an audio IC phone. What phone is attached? I don't think I'm up for taking off the CPU shield today. Could be Wi-Fi was getting hot. That's a possibility. I wonder what the connection is. Wi-Fi power probably comes from the baseband PMIC area. Oh, there's a little dude that's not supposed to be there. So on this one, we didn't do anything to baseband PMIC, assuming that that's what that chip is. Alrighty. iPad rehab, you may want to try another currency as Bitcoin has high transaction fees. Yeah, we're not taking actual Bitcoin unless you want to let's see. Trying to think of a way that could work with like GDAX. Unless we organize some kind of buy and sell. All right, let's see. I'll be buying my quick due to iPad rehab staking payments. Yeah, you can pay us in any kind of reasonable cryptocurrency. Let's see. 3 months at this rate to turn a full return on investment on what the cards are valued at. So it sounds like you're a miner. I paused the 1080 when I won a game. Well, I started my 1070 at home, mining away $5 a day, just sitting there. It was otherwise turned off. I thought that was pretty awesome. Chris Long sounds like he's getting himself into trouble. I need to dump more into Tron and Ripple before they bump up higher. Yeah, let's do a little technical analysis, shall we? Let's see. Should Chris Long invest more in Tron and Ripple? Let's find out. That sounds like a lot more fun than working on these phones, because this whole video is now half private and half public. Thank you very much, Lewis. And so I'll probably just delete it. It was really cool though in the middle part. when it was marked private. Let's see. Let's get rid of this. Let's go back to Chrome. Not that Chrome window. Let's get rid of this. What happened to the rest of Chrome? God damn it. No, I need to make a rule called no more messing with my computer when I'm in the middle of a stream. Alright, let's see. Ah, now I can't do this. Ah, this was already open. Why'd you fucking close my shit? Alright, let's see if we can do it anyway. That's the only platform I know how to use. Yeah, let's see. All right, fuck it. That I had this open so that we could look at some crypto trades, but now it's going to require two-factor authentication. I have to get my phone and stuff like that. A minor. iPad rehab, blah, blah, blah. My friends are going nuts about Ripple. I've only got 100 shares in Ripple. I have 6,500 in TRX. I want to know how many I have. Well, what's your goal? You gotta have a plan. Trade your plan. My plan is to go to bed every night with no shares in any of those altcoins. In the meantime, though, I got a lot of shares. Let's see. Let's check in. Let's check in on the old crypto. Let's see if the monster's going to eat the image. Let's see where my phone is. I want to do some videos just on crypto. All right, let's see. Let's look at some charts. I have 10,652 shares on TRX. And Ripple, I have 0.5 shares on Ripple. So there you go. Let's see. Let's go to cointracking.info, which is a fantastic place to keep track of all this shit. And let's look at realized and unrealized gains. All right, so let's see. On XLM in the last week, this is pretty cool. Where's the... On Ripple, I have realized a gain of $245 trading Ripple over the last couple days. But on XLM, $1,000, 682 plus 364. That is a shit ton. ETH plus 1,000, TRX plus 123, Dash plus 22. It's pretty sweet time. That's why everybody gets addicted to this shit. XVG 704. Check it. It's pretty sweet, huh? Look at that. Look at them gains. But I go to bed every night with all of that cleared away because I am trying to learn how to day trade specifically. which might be voodoo. I don't know if that's really a thing or not. All right, well, let's look at some charts. So should Chris Long put more money into Ripple? Let's find out. Let's take a look at the charts and see what kind of noob chart reading we can do in here. All right, let's see, Chris. All right, let's play together here. All right, here is your Ripple. Let's put it on a 4-hour candlestick. All right, now let's see what we can make out of this. So it looks like over here for a long time not much was going on, and we can look at these dates. This was just before Christmas Day. Nobody was trading any kind of Ripple. And then if we kind of look right here in that area, I don't know if you guys can see my cursor there or not. This point in time, let's see if we can embiggen that. There we go. At this point in time, it started an uptrend. And we can draw on, let's actually go to advanced and see if we can draw on this. That'd be fun. Let's do it. Advanced. There we go. All right, so let's go to Ripple. This is the Ripple F. Same thing if we went to Bitcoin and Ripple, it would be a really similar chart. Let's take the time scale to a pretty broad view of 4 hours. Let's see. My friend bought F to dump into XRP just as it dipped into the 500s last week. It's way up now. Well, it's, you know, so let's look at this. Let's be analysts. Let's be traders. All right, let's look. Where's the volume? So there's a big chunk of volume here on this uptrend. So if we look at this kind of on this daily chart, let's see if we can do tools. Let's do a trend line. So we can see that you know, I guess you make a trend line, probably something like that. And it, I guess you could probably do another one. Let's see, tools, regression line. What's that? What is a regression line? Okay, okay, I like that. There we go, something like that. Damn it. I liked it how it was. I liked it how it was. How do we delete that? So you can kind of see it had this uptrend, and then it hit this line, and then here it kind of broke down, and then it did not continue following up that line. So this line under here was broken at this point. So if we look at this candle here, that candle breaks this line. Let's stick a line like that again. So if we're just kind of like following this thing. God damn it, I don't know how to draw these. Control Z. No, you don't let me Control Z. Fuck you then. How does it do that? But this candle here, this red one, broke that. And this little candlestick pattern is something that means something to some people. What, bearish and golfing, maybe those two dudes? There's something where it's like green candle, little guy, and then a red one. Anyway, that's the start of it going back down. And then here, it's pretty clear that it's been trading for since, let's see, when is this? For a few days, it's come down off of that big run up, and it has been trading in this channel. So what is it going to do, you know, after this? I think we'd have to like back out to really even more broad to see if we can kind of get an overall trend. So it looks like on these heavy volume days, it goes up, and then it kind of stays in this channel. It goes up, stays in a channel, goes up, stays in a channel. So it seems like the way this has been since back here, since the middle of December, is that it is trading in this pattern, whatever the hell that is, which is a run up channel, but it doesn't really drop much back down. It just kind of stays flat after that run up. And so that looks like where we are now. So right now we're in a channel. So should you put more money into Ripple? Well, we don't know. We don't know whether or not it's going to move out of this channel to the upside or the downside. One of the things about trading that I think is important is to visualize and imagine for yourself what this chart would look like if it went the way you don't want it to go, especially if you're really invested. Like if you imagined what would this chart look like if it really just kind of had a big drop and it kind of erased all these gains. Let's look at it kind of in the short term to see if there's any other opportunities. So let's go down to like the 30-minute scale. All right, so we can look at it here at the 30-minute time zone, and it really is just kind of, you know, hanging around overall. But this is quite a big swing from 12,000 to 15,930. So from 12,000 to 15,930, and but that 12,000 I think that was like a one-time deal. So really we can kind of like put a line here at 13,625 to 15,256. This is why I don't have any Ripple right now. I don't think that there's any room for day trading. There's just not doing anything. No signs of it getting ready to do anything. It is just kind of hanging out on a, you know, exactly what it says. 24-hour change, 3.5%. Now, if you look over here at some of the other, oh, not that. Let's see. If you look at these other guys in this market of crypto space, you know, these dudes up 50%, 32%, 30%, 26%. There's a lot of really, really volatile stocks. So if you want to day trade, which, you know, you got to decide what are you trying to do. I want to day trade. So if I want to day trade, I'm going to pick one of these guys that are going to have a lot of swing. If something is run up really high, it's going to run back down, and try to get in on these trades. Now, Ripple was in this category a few days ago, and I made a lot of trades on Ripple, and it was fantastic. But right now, for day trading, Ripple is not doing anything. Let's look down even at a closer scale here and see what's up with it. Not much going on here at the 1 minute. This difference between the high on this chart, 15,567, and the low, 15,217, they're pretty much the same. That is not a lot of movement at all. So that one is kind of boring. And then your other one was TRX. So what about TRX? So TRX looks, look, that's the 1 minute. Let's go back and look at the 4 hour. All right, let's see. Mooncoin may be a good day trader. Mooncoin! Very cheap and swings by 50% at times. All right, so let's look at this. So this is Tron, TRX, Tron, and there's been a lot of buzz lately and a lot of interest in Tron. And on the 4 hour scale, it's the same, very similar pattern, which is that it ran up, and then it has this really strong 4 hours where it was just absolutely flying up. But then the next candle here, you can see that there was a lot of indecision in 4 hours. Is it going to go higher? Is it going to shoot all the way back down? That's a big indecision candle there. And then since then, it looks like it has been up and down. Green candle, red candle, green candle. And when I see those kind of patterns, there's still a lot of volume there. That to me looks like indecision. where the market is kind of consolidating. Those candles are the green one and then red one, green one, red one. We're gonna go up. No, we're gonna go down. We're gonna go up. We're gonna go. But look at the size of them. And I'm, by the way, just making this up. This is just what I look at and see and get impressions of with little training in candlestick biology. But the pattern seems to be like consolidating down. So at first it was, we're really gonna go high. No, we're gonna go really low. It's like a big tug of war that's really kind of going really far back and forth, and then it's kind of getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I would guess that on this 4-hour time window, as that kind of tightens down, that then markets don't just make straight lines, that eventually there will be a move, and then when a move happens, then kind of momentum will follow, and it will either trend up or trend down at that point. So this looks more like something to be interested in. So let's drill down and see what's been going on at like the 1-hour scale. All right, so we see that we've kind of got this, kind of trending up on, this kind of line here. Let's see if we can draw a trend line that really looks like it would pretty closely follow this moving average. So it really kind of looks like it would. That's probably not the right line there. What happens if I just go back and try again? Let's try a different tool. Let's do support pressure line. All right, fine. What does that look like? One of the things you're supposed to, it's going to be just one of these. Like support is here, resistance is clearly there. All right, let's try some of these other toys. Get out of there. The Fibonacci retracements are pretty cool. All right, so if we kind of pick a line like that, where it kind of was trading on this line, bing, 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 bing. Here is where it broke that uptrend on this scale. This is the 1-hour scale, and it's not very clear or very strong. But here it broke an uptrend. It was going up, and if it wanted to continue on that path, it would have had to bounce there and keep going up, but it didn't. So it has switched from being an uptrend to now a range trading. Now range trading, there's nothing wrong with that as long as your range is sufficiently big. I like ranges because ranges are pretty predictable. I like it to go be like, oh, it goes to here, it goes there, then it turns around. So let's drill down on the 30-minute scale and see if we can see that range that it's now been in. Yeah, so there we go. So now we can see that it had that kind of like run up, and then it fell back, and then this here is where it broke that trend, and now it is in a range. So here we can really see it's like a total sine wave, up, down, up. And maybe again that range is going to kind of get narrower and narrower. So let's see if we can kind of define what is the swing in that range. So the difference between 441 and 520, that's like staying still. That's not a difference at all. So nothing going on here for a day trader in this stock. So let's see. Yeah, so this is a range that is, a little tug of war. It's getting narrower and narrower. So at some point, I would think that somewhere around here, folks that really understand technical analysis, like this is forming this like kind of little point or pennant, I think they're called. And at the tip of that is going to be a move up or down. It can't just continue. So I would be watching this And I don't know what the signal is that tells you that you're breaking out of one of these, like, bull flag or something like that. But that could be, I mean, look at how tight that is. It is like not moving. It is kind of seems like now, but it would need volume. It needs volume in order to make a move, and it's probably the wrong time of day. I don't know, just China like TRX. See, it's a bigger swing that's getting narrow and narrow as it gets down in here. How do we get rid of all of these things? Is there any increase in volume? Not really. What's it been doing in the last 1 minute? Look at that, it's doing nothing. It is flat. And it is at like this round number of 500. What's it gonna do? 500. Is it gonna go up or go down? All right, let's see. Oh, there's Lewis looking at stuff. Long-term stuff, something I can dump money in and sit around. Got a problem. First you gotta admit you have a problem. Jessa, iPad Rehab says Jessa and I trade the opposite. She looks at technical analysis. I trade based on the product potential likelihood of success. Yes, Lewis and I are gonna be a trading team. We're gonna fucking rule. He's on fundamental, I'm on technical. It's gonna be awesome. Or we'll just compete like always. Never let your heart dictate when to buy and sell. That is right. That's the goal. That's the New Year's res, is to learn how to become a computer. And then just get a computer and then let it trade for you, I think the advantages of Tron and Ripple are the speed and utility for a long-term investment. There's supposedly a new one like Ether coming out. Well, the thing about all of the fundamentals, China is why I, Jessa, am focused on RPX, says Lewis. So I can type and talk simultaneously. I am Jessa, says Lewis. So let's see. Can we even see these things anymore? Let's get rid of this stuff. Let's get rid of that. Yeah, there we go. iPad Rehab crypto trading. I want to do a video like cryptocurrency for moms. But I think I'm super excited about the crypto industry and crypto trading in general. And I think that it is a really unique kind of point in time where I don't know how many times in life you can look back and see this moment in time where the world really, kind of walked through a door separating an old way from a new way. So there was in my life a time where we didn't have cell phones, and then over a period of like a year or two, everyone had cell phones. And we all had flip phones. And then over, same kind of thing where then that evolved into everyone having smartphones. And now it is hard to remember what it was like to not have a cell phone or not have smartphones just around. And I think that, like books, if you want to learn something, what do? You go on the internet and you read web pages and articles and blogs and forum posts and videos. You don't go to the library and get out textbooks anymore. That's just not how learning is done. Books have given way to digital media for teaching and learning. So, the old school analog phones have given way to these wireless phones. And so I think that the basic fundamental concept in your life of money has given way. And one of the things I said in the video that I'm going to delete here, this one, is that the idea that paper money is really completely unnecessary. How would your life be affected if someone just came and said, hey, I will, if you collect up all the cash and the change and the coins and the dollar bills you have in your house, and gather it up, stick it in this hat, and I will issue you a card that has digital currency and the same value on it. And if you lose the card, don't worry about it. It's not the same as losing a $100 bill. Just go down to the office and we'll print you another card, because all of this stuff just lives in the air. It's all digital currency. Digital currency just seems very natural, and it makes a lot of sense for the way that we've been evolving as a species. So I think that it's very natural, and it's very hard to imagine that this isn't going to be something that we look back on. Hey, remember 2017 was the last year where you could still find people that had never even heard of Bitcoin. I think by the end of 2018, you will be hard pressed to find, the lady sitting next to you at soccer, she will have heard of Bitcoin in a year, and this year she hasn't. And that's a really, really wild time to be alive. Now, Bitcoin itself is a prototype, and it sucks. Bitcoin is like the world's shittiest coin. It's like the first ever anything that was made, like the Model T. It's the Model T digital currency. Great idea, fantastic prototype, well done, Bitcoin. But, it was just, a first idea, a prototype. The special iPad rehab size here. What are you talking about? Time for me to team view into my own computer and hit stop streaming so I can go to sleep. What the fuck? What are you talking about? I want to be the king of cryptocurrency and have my own throne and make my own government. Waiting for the crash. So what I think is going to happen is that this like new thing that is so incredibly life changing and a kind of pivot point for humankind, the dawn of digital currency, has this major well-established kingpin coin, Bitcoin, that is the dominant market leader just because it was first. That's the only redeeming thing about Bitcoin, is it was the first. It was the prototype. So it's going to become unseated. And when we look at the dramatic value that Bitcoin has amassed over this last year, you can't help but to imagine that, well, whatever unseats Bitcoin, whatever evolves through natural selection, digital natural selection, as the actual bona fide crypto coin that we all use, we don't know what that is yet. We have no idea. And so right now there's this kind of giant Wild West brawl out there in the world of these exchanges, a big ass redneck fight to see which coin is going to evolve through digital natural selection to become the one that in 5 years we look back and think of as money. And we don't know what it is. So it's this really fun time to be watching this mega horse race where there are, I looked it up on CoinMarketCap, I thought there were maybe 100 coins, maybe 300 max. There are over 1,000 different coins, all sorts of different coins, and they each have their own shtick. And the winner is not just going to be whatever is the fastest or safest or lowest fees or whatever little things that it could possibly have to be better than one another. It's going to be that plus this whole social aspect of marketing and what team is politically has the most contacts, which team is supported by the right people. It's not going to be the grades they make. It's going to be the hands you shake that pick the winner, and it's this really interesting thing to be a part of. And you can see this brawl happening on this screen. If we just look over here at these numbers, just going nuts. This entire place is just a giant melee. And there is a lot of money to be made where at some point we're going to see this kind of evolution where just like in a bacteria culture or any other natural selection and naturally occurring population, there's just this shit ton of candidates, these babies, and they've just been littered all over the place. And you're kind of looking at them, and as they grow, we're going to notice little strengths and weaknesses. And, just like in any other population, you're going to kind of whittle it down, just like in that show, the 3%. There's the 97% of these altcoins are just going to go away. And then there's going to be the sort of like creme de la creme. And we have no idea. They're all too young. They're all too babies. You know, like a big bunch of babies. You can't look at a daycare and identify, that kid's Einstein right there. I want to scratch in his ass. That guy, I've been watching him all day. He is way better than all these other babies. No, fucking babies are babies. They all shit. They all cry. You know, they all look pretty much the same. You know, a baby's a baby. And a lot of these coins are indistinguishable from each other, except for in these kind of minor ways. We're on a, you know, much faster scale than human babies, though. So as these coins start to grow up, and they're going to start kind of, you know, turning into little snowballs and gathering support and making political connections, making business connections, and it's going to turn into a really, what's that, Louis? I can't hear you over my money printer. So I think that paper money and just, you know, our attachment to what we think of as money is going to dramatically change in this year. I mean, I'm a mom in New York, and if I think Bitcoin is kind of getting a little long in the tooth, then I think that I fit the demographic of sort of most voting Americans that are going to be, what's Bitcoin? Oh, all right, you know. So I think when you're kind of hitting the mamographic, that's really when things kind of have a sign of progressing beyond the tech world. That's pretty cool. Anyway, I think it's a very, very fun time to be alive, and it's a very fun thing to be a part of, this idea of us being alive and watching as we all witness natural selection, evolution happening in real time in the next 6 months, the next year, in the next couple of years. And super fun time, because if you're learning how to trade, I mean, I'm a noob. I intend to learn how to trade. But if you're learning things like technical analysis, and you're learning how to investigate fundamentals of coins just like you would companies, it's a great time to learn, because overall, right now, this market is on fire, and it's just raining money put out your head. It's hard to lose money in the crypto trading market right now, which is why I'm such a thorn in everyone's side, because I'm constantly telling everyone, you know, everyone should be putting $100 on, you know, some coins. I love that guy that's doing the project of investing just $10 in each of the top 100 different coins. And that's hard. It's hard to figure out, like, how the hell are you supposed to actually do that? All right, I want to buy some of Lewis's XRP or whatever it is, his red Chinese WeChat ad coin, which I don't really get how that turns into a coin. Okay, great. How do I buy it? That's hard to figure out. It's going to take you a day to figure it out on your own. So I'd like to do some videos for moms, how to buy some crypto, because it's really fun. And and Lewis is coming here to hit stop streaming. Well, let's see what is he going to do? WordPad. It's time to go. It's time to say goodnight. Okay. Wow, 48-point font. I'm not blind. It's time to say goodnight in bold. In red, it's time to say goodnight. All right, I think it's time to say goodnight. It's really funny how long you can sit here and rant on crypto things. All right, time to delete this whole fucking thing. All right, hit stop. Am I in charge? All right, great. What happened to YouTube? You closed it. How am I can't even turn that off now. All right. Time for fucking bed.